If you saw my last video where I restored a pair of black Chini leather shoes from very average looking to nice and shiny, this video is taking it to the next level, because what we didn't do with this, although it looks very shiny, we didn't get a mirror shine. Now the mirror shine is what I've gone for here. Now you'll see before we start a very obvious flaw in the process, or a couple of flaws. We're going to come back and address that at a later date. But today I'm going to show you how I got this effect as a completely novice mirror shiner. Now, the reason I'm excited about this is because I've been trying literally for years to achieve a mirror shine. I'm not a very patient person, and I always give up before I actually achieve the mirror shine. As I say, elephant in the room, dry spot that looks very unsightly. However, I'm hoping that with time I learn all about that, what caused it, how to prevent it, and then we'll cover that in another video. But that's my polished but un-mirror shined shoe, and today I'm going to show you how to mirror shine it. You only need three things for this process: some water in a spray bottle, your wax shoe polish, and a cloth, a very soft cotton cloth. Now this is a proper shoe polishing cloth, and it helps if it's lint free. So softer the better, and lint free, but other than that, just an ordinary cotton cloth. We're going to build the shine up layer by layer and just keep going with a layer of water, layer of wax, layer of water, layer of wax, until we achieve the mirror shine. For me, the technique is all about how much pressure do you apply, how much wax do you apply, and how much water do you apply. And I'm going to go through all of those key ingredients with you today. So without further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, the difference between that, I'm going to try and zoom in on that. As you can see the leather grain. The one thing you don't want with a mirror shine is to see the grain of the leather. It needs to be absolutely smooth as glass. So the first process is to build up that wax. Now get your cloth and wrap it tightly round 2 fingers like that. And all we're going to do, tiny amount of wax, and cover the toe of the shoe. Now at this stage, all we're doing really is filling in the grain. So it doesn't even have to be that precise at this stage. A bit more. And I would say in terms of pressure, if you can feel yourself tiring because you're pressing on so much, then that's too much. If you're just skirting over the surface, then that's not enough. It needs to be a nice, gentle amount of pressure. It's difficult to describe, but when you feel it, you'll feel it. I'm going to go for a third pass. And the secret appears to be many, many thin layers rather than slapping it on. Now, when you see other people do it, they take a dab of water and do this. Now, this is why I get the spray bottle, because I've found from about 18 inches of a distance, a spray that you're just covering. A mist on the leather is what you're looking for, a really fine mist. And all that's doing is creating a little bit of slip so that the wax forms this ultra smooth surface. That's all you're doing. You don't want too much water on it. And then once you've done your first coat, you start to see how the grain's filled in and how much more you've got to do. I think we're literally talking about maybe 15 layers, something like that, as many as that. Reuse that little bit of wax. It could be 15 layers. I didn't count the last time. I was just so excited to share my success. So I forgot to take notes. Right, that's going to be, that is actually quite a thick second layer. But let's see how we get on. Again, fine misting, and again all we're doing is smoothing it out to a mirror finish. Ironically, the smoother the leather is to start with, so the cheaper the leather is to start with, the easier I think it would be to create your mirror shine. Now, what I did last time, the reason I believe, and this sounds silly, but I believe the reason I achieved it last time was because I stopped focusing on the process. I put a YouTube video on at the same time, and I just started to ignore what I was doing. I just polished and sprayed and dabbed and polished and sprayed and dabbed, and I thought, this is it. It's when you're waiting for something to happen, that's when it gets boring, that's when it gets tiresome. But when you're doing something else, and this is just something in your hand that's happening at the same time, then you don't get bored of the process. But you know what you're working towards. You're working towards this built up, ultra smooth layer. You see, in all the videos I've followed to this point, I've never understood the sort of science behind the process, and now I understand the science. I understand how smooth it needs to be, and what the water's doing, and how the process works. It's not good enough for me. It's not good enough just to say, oh, keep going and it will happen. Yes, it probably will, but I need to know what I'm doing, and I need to know why it's working or why it's not working in order for me to have the patience to carry on. Now, I don't have the full shine. It's not a bad shine. What I do have is the grain of the leather nicely filled in. Now, I've learned at this point, if you do a spray after every layer of wax, that's too much. So I probably go for 3 lots of wax to 1 lot of water, and that seems to be about right. I may modify that as time goes on. but so far so good. It's about three layers of wax to 1 layer of water. And now I have the confidence, I'm going to change to another bit of the cloth. I have the confidence to know that what I'm doing is going to work, so I'm quite happy to carry on with the process. I'm going to do 1 more layer of wax, and then another water. That feels a bit too much. That's forming distinct droplets on the surface. Might need a lot more working in for this one. See, the problem there was I didn't trust that 1 spray was enough. I gave it 2 sprays, and 2 sprays, it would appear, was too much. But these are the things you learn as you go on. But and I'm sure that given time, the process gets faster and more efficient, and you know what to look out for. As I say, I'm very much a novice at this, and I'm enjoying learning a new skill. I often find that the best people to learn from are the people who've only just learned themselves, because they understand the frustration of being a novice and not being able to get it. So the tips that they've just picked up, they can pass on straight away. As I'm saying, you know, the exact amount of pressure that you put on, how much wax you put on, if you know you've put too much water on. And that's starting to look really good. Lovely. Another couple of those, I think we will just about have it. And there's actually something very satisfying when it gets to this stage and the leather is ultra smooth. Then the process itself gets easier because you're not fighting against the roughness. It glides a lot more easily across the surface, and that in itself makes the process easier. Now, I'm sure there are people watching this that will say, oh my God, you're doing that so wrong, that's terrible, why are you doing that? Or they'll say, oh, you know the problem you're having with that, X, Y, and Z, if you try this, please, 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 fire whatever comments, criticisms, advice into the comments, because I am, as I say, I'm learning, and I know people have been doing this for years and years, and will be all too quick to share their advice. So please share your advice. Be gentle with me, because as I say, I am an absolute novice at it. I've been restoring and refurbishing shoes from the point of view of stripping them down to the leather, building up the moisture, conditioning the leather, building up the colour, getting it to a shine. And that's where I've always stopped. Because I've no real need for a high mirror shine like this, I've always chickened out at that stage and said, well, I don't need it. I'm not in the military. I don't need a parade shine. I don't need to get my shoes that shiny. But it's such a nice effect to be able to create. Now, Now, I'm going to say that that is done. When you see it, you'll see the imperfections, you'll see this little dry spots here, and there's a bit around the side. But the point is, the toe cap, the bit that I was most keen to get mirror shined, is absolutely spot on. Now obviously there's a bit of work to do on the dry spots, and I suspect we're going to have to take the whole lot off and start again. To say that that was my first attempt and I was quite happy with that, and that was then my second attempt and it was a little bit better still, I imagine third, fourth and subsequent attempts are going to be a lot better still. If you haven't seen the first video, go back and check that one. I'll link to it up here. Go back and check the first one where I restore them from zero up to a shine. Then you can pick up with this video for the next bit, which is the mirror shine. Anyway, let me know if you've tried it and you've had any success. But until next time, take care and I'll see you very soon.